I'd like to show you how to make pork belly ramen with noodles. Allow me to introduce you to the ingredients. We have 2 eggs, 500 grams or a pound of pork belly slices, onions chopped, 1 cube of minced frozen garlic defrosted, 1 cube of minced frozen ginger defrosted, 100 grams or 3.5 ounces of shiitake mushrooms, 1200 milliliters or 5 cups of beef broth, half a teaspoon of Chinese 5-spice, 1 tablespoon of dark soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of light soy sauce, 1.5 tablespoons of dark brown sugar, 100 grams, 3.5 ounces or 2 packs of dried ramen noodles, 1 tablespoon of dried parsley, 1 teaspoon of fennel seeds, a tablespoon of sunflower, plus 1 tablespoon of sesame oil combined. So let's get started. First of all, we're going to start with the eggs. Remove the lid, adding 2 cups or approximately 400 to 500 milliliters of water into the pot. We then want to use our trivet. Once we've added our water, we can then add a trivet. And using a small set of tongs, our eggs. We now want to checking the lid to make sure it's set to locked. Place the lid on. And we want manual mode, 4 minutes. Meanwhile, having 2 bowls of water at the ready is handy for when we want to place the eggs into the bowl to cool them down. And secondly, once we've peeled the eggs, we then want to place the peeled eggs directly into the bowl of water, ready to add to the ramen. Now that the pot's come up to pressure, the 4-minute countdown has begun. Now that the timer's completed, we're ready to switch off and depressurise. We can now simply remove the lid. And using the tongs, simply place the eggs gently into a bowl of cold water. We can now simply place these to one side. Using our heat-proof gloves, we can simply remove the trivet and pour out the water. Now that the eggs have had a few minutes to cool, we're ready to crack the shells and peel. Now that we've peeled the egg, we can simply place it into the water. We now have our shell we can simply dispose of. Now we've disposed of the shell, the eggs can simply be placed to one side, ready for adding to the ramen. We now want to begin cooking the ramen with the pork. So first of all, we want to select brown sauté, and adding our combination of sunflower oil and sesame oil. We now just want to wait for this to come up to approximately halfway. Once the temperature's reached approximately halfway, we can begin to fry. Now that the temperature's reached over halfway, we can begin to add the pork. Using a decent set of tongs, next, we want to add our Chinese 5-spice and allowing the pork to cook for a couple of minutes. After approximately 2 to 4 minutes, we can simply switch the pork over. And once again, we just want to leave for another 2 to 4 minutes to allow it to cook. After 2 to 4 minutes, according to your preference, we can begin to add the onions. Using a spatula, we want to give that a stir. We're now ready to add the garlic. And the ginger. And leaving that for another couple of minutes to fry. We can now cancel saute mode and next we want to add our shiitake mushrooms, the beef broth, and the fennel seeds. And checking the lid to make sure it sets are sealed and not bent. Placing the lid and selecting manual mode, 25 minutes. Now that the time is completed, we want to allow for a 5-minute natural depressurize. Now the 5-minute natural depressurize is finished, we can switch off and depressurize. If you wish to, place a towel over the steam vent. Now that the pot is depressurized, we can remove the lid. So for the next part, we want to remove the pork. And slice the pork belly into smaller portions. Now that the pork is sliced into bite-sized pieces, we want to pour the broth into a separate bowl. For the next part, we want to brown and saute the pork. I'm adding a spritz of sunflower oil. Now that the temperature is up to approximately halfway, we can add the pork. And give that a quick stir. We can now add our sugar and the soy sauce. And give that a good stir to coat. You want to fry the pork for a good couple of minutes until it begins to caramelise. We want to add the broth. Once the broth begins to boil, we can add the parsley and the noodles. Just want to give that a stir and submerge the noodles and allow that to boil for 4 or so minutes until the noodles are ready. In order to check the doneness of the noodle, we can simply, using a clean fork, have a taste. feeling the texture of the noodle, you can generally tell whether it's ready or it needs a little longer. So the noodles seem about ready, we can simply cancel and serve. So it's now time for the taste test. The pork is incredibly succulent, it's given an absolutely amazing flavour by the combination of sugar and soy sauce. Using fresh mushrooms is a perfect companion to the meal in general. The egg is perfectly soft and perfectly runny. And the noodles are perfectly cooked. So I hope you've enjoyed cooking the food as much as I've enjoyed cooking the food, and I hope you're enjoying eating the food as much as I'm enjoying eating the food. Simply subscribe to stay up to date with the latest recipes. Thanks again, see you in the next one.